Greetings, and welcome to the 12th, or possibly 13th, episode of Morrowind Modding Interviews. With me today is Scamp, project developer for Skyrim Home of the Nords and Province Cyrodiil. Thank you for agreeing to this interview.
Thanks for having me.
And right away, as usual, we're going to just go right into a few basic questions. The first of which is, when did you first start playing Morrowind and the Elder Scrolls in general?
Oh well, when did I first start playing Morrowind? That was probably actually you've heard that a lot of times already with the past guys on these interviews. I was late to the party. I think I started playing in 2006 or 2007. I can't quite remember, but it was either of those. I think like after 2 years, I started playing the Game of the Year edition from Oblivion. But before that was Morrowind. I think it was 2006 probably. So 2 years after the Game of the Year edition from Morrowind. So I was kind of late to the party. I haven't played Arena and Daggerfall. I'm ashamed to say that. But yeah, I started playing 2006 probably.
Alright, and had you played the previous Elder Scrolls games before that? I mean, I know you said you didn't play Arena or Daggerfall, but did you play a lot of Oblivion before Morrowind?
No, I actually started playing Morrowind, and that was a really cool game, I thought, at that time. So that was why I picked up Oblivion as well after that, like 1 or 2 years after playing Morrowind, or finishing Morrowind. I did play a lot of Oblivion. Nowadays I would probably say it's not really a good game, mostly because Morrowind is so much better, and the level, yeah, that's... You may come up with this question as well, so I'm not going to say too much about Oblivion or what I think about Oblivion right now. But I did play a lot of Oblivion, but not before I played Morrowind. So I really started with Morrowind, and then I played Oblivion and Skyrim afterwards. Yeah, and no other games in this series, just Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim.
Now, most of us are probably familiar with your work on the Province mods, but have you made any mods on your own, perhaps for your own personal use?
Actually, yes, I have made my own mods. My probably least popular mod ever is called Scamp's Cliff Races, which is something I haven't even released. That's maybe why it's not that popular. What it does is it makes all cliff races in the game entirely friendly, so entirely non-hostile. Because that was just so annoying. Every time I played the game, I was being haunted by these cliff races, and I thought, oh well, now I'm gonna shut you all up. And I made this mod that makes them all friendly. And then I had the problem that like there were different kinds of cliff races. I didn't notice that, and I was thinking, oh well, why is my mod not working? I set the cliff races to non-hostile, and they're still attacking me. But that was the blighted cliff races, and there's another sort of cliff racer. And then it took me some time to figure out that there were more cliff races, and I had to change them as well to make them all friendly. But in the end, it's probably a good mod because, yeah, the game's kind of annoying if you have all these cliff races chasing after you. Other than that, I had some, yeah, like the typical first mods that people make, like faction quest line with a shitty interior that really doesn't work well because I didn't know how to use grid snap. But yeah, some things that I would never show to the public because it's really not very well made. But those little things like tinkering out the construction set, just trying out how things work, the typical things. But probably the mod that's stuck in my head is the Cliff Racer mod. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of people have made mods in the past to get rid of the Cliff Racer threat. Of course, there are actually quite a few different varieties of Cliff Racers. There's disease Cliff Racers and there's blighted Cliff Racers. And, well, just recently on Morrowind Nexus, there was a new Cliff Racer mod that was released called Fire-Breathing Cliff Racers, which sort of does the opposite sort of thing and makes it so Cliff Racers have fireballs now.
Oh well, that sounds very intimidating. Actually, I don't think I would use this mod, to be honest. Sounds like that wouldn't be fun to play with.
Oh yes, I'm pretty sure it was meant as a joke mod, so I don't know how many people are actually going to use it as a permanent part of their save game, because, well, that would be very annoying. Now, could you tell us a bit about the province mods you're working on?
Yeah, sure. So let's get started with Province Cyrodiil, probably. Province Cyrodiil is sort of the generic phrase that you'll find in our forums as well. We are trying to recreate, or not recreate, but we're trying to create the province of Cyrodiil for, or in the time frame of Morrowind. So that would be the third era of 427, if my memory serves me right. And there's some little differences as well as similarities to Oblivion. That's probably the thing that people are most interested in. We are adding like quite a few characters that you may have seen in Oblivion, because they may still be or already be alive during this time frame. But the most important difference probably is that we are not actually going with this summer like landscape, that was really not very well designed in Oblivion. We're going with the actual PGE description of Cyrodiil, so that would be jungle and rainforests, and obviously the whole Gold Coast looks different as well from what we've seen in Oblivion. So we're actually going with the actual lore that existed before Oblivion came out. So the way that Cyrodiil should have been designed had it been made as an expansion for Morrowind, for instance, during that time frame. Yeah, that's probably what I would say about Province Cyrodiil. Skyrim Home of the Nords. Yeah, well, that's probably the main antagonist of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, as some people would say. This is also very different from the actual game that came out very much later. We are obviously creating the province of Skyrim as a mod for Morrowind, and it's sort of different from Skyrim in a few ways, that we actually using maps and lore that was existent before Skyrim came out. So, as an example, the Reach and the Rift, they were kind of sort of swapped in Skyrim, and we're actually not doing that. The Reach is now to the west of Skyrim, and the Rift will be in the south and eastern area of Skyrim. And yeah, it'll be bigger. Maybe I should have mentioned that for Province Cyrodiil as well. It's probably going to be like 1.5 times as big as Oblivion Cyrodiil was. So, or maybe even bigger. I'm not quite sure about that. But it's going to be bigger, and it's going to be bigger as Morrowind as well, obviously. Well, Skyrim, yeah, it'll be quite big as well. I think someone posted, I think it was Muspila, he posted a picture of how big the Reach was. It's it's almost as big as Vardenfell already, I think. Very, very huge area that we're creating there. So there's a lot of quests that we're designing. We're gonna have our own factions, our own quest lines. We're using a lot of new models and textures. We're not porting any of the models from Oblivion to Province Cyrodiil. Kind of mixing it up here a bit between Scam Home of the Nords and Province Cyrodiil. Excuse me for that. But yeah, that is probably what I would say about Skyrim Home of the Nords as well. So just a mod that creates a new province to the west of Morrowind. I'm sure people know that. Yeah, with its own quest lines, its own new models and stuff, own landscapes, and quite different from Skyrim, as you would say. The game, I mean.
Oh yeah, and with Province Cyrodiil in particular, personally, I'm really glad you guys are sort of going with your own design a little bit instead of using Oblivion's designs, because Oblivion had some really strange city designs, like with the Imperial City, and especially with Leowyn. Leowyn was not at all like what you would expect from lore. So it's definitely very interesting to know that Province Cyrodiil is actually sticking to a more Morrowind-related lore correctness.
Yeah, sure. About the cities to the east, we're not we have not actually done a lot of planning. There's gonna be a new city to the east. It's called Mir Korup. Not sure about the pronunciation here, but we haven't really done a lot of no, lot of designing here. We're mostly focused on finishing the western areas first, and also about the Imperial City. We have some ideas, but it's not really set in stone right as of now. But it's going to be a lot bigger than the Oblivion's Imperial City, and obviously it's going to be very different in the way the architecture will work and stuff like that. What you didn't see in Oblivion at all was the difference in culture between Nibene and Colovian culture. That was not shown at all, or maybe very distinctly, uh, or not at all. Yeah, but that's something we're changing as well. There's a clear difference here in architecture and in the way people will speak to you, and also in the quest lines that will be available to you. So yeah, that's a lot of changes we're making actually. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the Clovian and Nibene cultures, because you read a lot about that in lore, about how different these two parts of Cyrodiil are, and then in Oblivion, it's like the entire province is just kind of generic.
Yeah, exactly. Like one was pretty much just imperial, as you would say, or yeah, there was no really clear distinction between the two cultures. I was not a big fan of that. But at the time that I played it, I didn't really know that much about lore, so I didn't really care. Maybe that's why I played so much of Oblivion. But right now I'm thinking that we should change some of that, and we're certainly doing that.
Now, sort of going into your work with the province mods, what is your role at Skyrim Home of the Nords and Province Cyrodiil in particular?
My role is probably a bit more complicated, mostly because it has changed a bit over the years. At Province Cyrodiil, I started as a normal modder, I guess, and then I was kind of lifted up to head of exteriors, and then I did the design for the Gold Coast and for Sturk, the region designs. And yeah, obviously I was also an interior modder. I was an interior reviewer, pretty much all the positions that I had at Tamriel Build as well. And yeah, because we didn't have a lot of modders at the time, I soon became admin as well. Um, that was something that our former admin came up with, sort of as a matter of appreciation, I guess. So I was administrator at Province Cyrodiil. I still am actually, but also head of exteriors and also interior model, also a reviewer for interiors and exteriors. At Skyrim Home of the Nords, it's pretty similar. I started out as a normal modder, and then I became an exterior modder. So I was actually the only guy working on exteriors besides our main project leader for a while, and maybe Muspila as well. And then I became head of interiors at some point. I did most of the interior, like the design of claims and putting them up on the forums, providing some guidelines for new modders and stuff like that. I was also a reviewer there, and then I stepped down at some point. Um, didn't want to do the job anymore. It's pretty exhausting after you're doing this for quite a while. Putting up all the interiors and stuff like that. So I stepped down, and now I'm just sort of hanging around and doing this and that. Still reviewing, still doing some exteriors, but not so much recently because I was being pretty busy with university and stuff. So I'm still administrator as I'm called on the forums. But I'm more doing this and that, like sort of an all rounder in the landscaping and world building level design department, and also of course general forum managing, like moving topics, banning certain people, of course, and just providing help for some new guys that join up. Also reviewing the showcase files that we get. Yeah, so that's the sort of stuff I do there.
Since you mentioned Tamriel Built, we were talking about this before the interview started, but you used to do a lot of work for Tamriel Built, and can you sort of go into what you did for the Tamriel Built team?
Yeah, sure. I started off as an interior modder. It was late 2009. And I did a lot of interiors at first, and at some point I became interior reviewer. That was probably before I actually started making my exterior showcase. So I did interior reviews for Tamriel Rebuilt, and of course I continued to make interiors as well. And then at some point I made my exterior showcase. Not quite sure when that was actually, but I'm not sure it matters. But at some point I made exteriors as well. A lot of them actually. As I mentioned before the interview, I actually started off doing like only some exteriors in the Rorin area, and afterwards I started doing more and more. And then was at some point I was in the top 10 list of exterior modders in terms of how many cells you've completed. Um, and I really did a lot of work on the map 5 area, so the Velothis area with the Velothi Mountains and the Ash Swamp and that sort of area. I did a lot of work on that. And then at some point I also finished or I did the roundup and the little tweaks on the Sacred East release. So the area around Akamora, I think that's what it was called, and around Necrom, and this dreaded and infamous forest next to Necrom that is just really a matter of big frame drops for everyone. I sort of went over my head there. It's just displaced a lot of trees, and like the I think it was Graceland trees. And yeah, that was not really good for the engine. It didn't really hold up well in that area. Yeah, so that was the sort of area I walked on as well, and it took me like 2 months. It was a really big claim. So I worked a bit on that area as well, and then mostly map 5, and map 4, the Hardlands release, and then at some point I made Ban Malo, or whatever you want to pronounce it. Like it's also called Blacklight in the Imperial language. Probably what I'm most famous for, or what Tamriel Build is also famous for, as I've heard before the interview. So that was probably my biggest accomplishment at Tamriel Build. Sort of many people have called it a masterpiece. I would call it so myself, because it's really the peak of my modding experience. Like I put everything, all the creativity and all the inspiration that I had, really went into this thing. That was like some sort of monster project. It turned out pretty well, if I may say so myself. But I also had some help, as I said before. Like the central building, obviously I didn't make that, and also some of the design, like the arching rocks, blooming over the city, all that stuff was not really wasn't all my ideas, but the design itself was my kind of stuff. So that's what I did at Tamriel Rebuilt. I think I left shortly after that. I also did some work on the Comaris Lake thing. That was my last claim, I think. And I just wanted to start something new, and had some complications with some people at Tamriel Rebuilt, so I just left after that and started at Skyrim, home of the Nords. And yeah, I stayed there for quite a while.
Oh yeah, a lot of those exteriors that you mentioned are probably some of my favorite spots in Tamriel Rebuilt, like Cormaeus Lake and Ban Malar and Rothrorian. We've actually featured a lot of these areas in our Tamriel Rebuilt trailer series that we've been doing on Morrowind Modding Showcases, and I think a lot of people would agree that these are probably some of the better areas to be found on Tamriel Rebuilt.
Yeah, I actually get that a lot. So I guess quite flattering. Um, I didn't just to mention this. I didn't make the actual city, Comaris. I just designed all the landscape around that. So the forest and the little foothills of the mountains. I designed that sort of stuff. But the city was a bit rough. I had like a first design, and it was not really what people wanted to see. I got the feeling, and then I was a little pissed, I should say, and that's probably one of the reasons why I left. But yeah, it's just what happens, and I was a little bit I was overreacting probably, but it served me right in the end. But yeah, I've had a pretty good time after that, so I'm not complaining.
Oh yeah, the backdrop to the lake is probably really just one of my favorite screenshot locations on Tamriel built. Seeing the sun set over the cliffs of the Velothi Mountains.
Oh yeah, it's probably my favorite region anyway. The Velothi Mountains are pretty damn great. Like all different areas. I mean, they start way in the south, in the heartlands, or like the very much western parts of the heartlands release. Some of my favorite claims in that area that I didn't make myself, but I'll get to that later probably. But yeah, that's really my favorite region. Mostly because I just like mountains in general. I love mountains. I love skiing as well, and snow and all that stuff. So that was really fun to work on. Had some pretty good time working on these areas. So yeah, also yeah, this lake is probably also one of my favorite locations to just take screenshots. I remember when I first took a screenshot of that, like people said like, "Oh man, this is my new wallpaper." That was pretty flattering as well. I like that one.
Sort of moving on to another province mod. Just out of curiosity, how far along in production is Province Cyrodiil? It seems like out of the three main province mods that we don't quite hear as much about the progress of Province Cyrodiil when compared to Tamriel Build or Skyrim Home of the Nords.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting question. The issue at Province Cyrodiil is mostly that or for a long time actually, we haven't had anyone to work on the NPCs and dialogue for Stirk, which is yeah, supposed to be our first release. We released the alpha, which had the exteriors and interiors, or some of the interiors, and then we needed someone to actually do, or to actually fill that with life, NPCs and dialogues and dialogue and quests. Um, but unfortunately, we didn't really have anyone who had the time to work on that. And then also, we were really slow at making the interiors. I don't know, like our people were just very lazy. I guess that's the main difference between Province Cyrodiil and Skyrim Home of the North. Like while there are a lot of people who are just or who are active in both projects, there's probably some more people in Skyrim Home of the North that are actually working a lot. And in Province Cyrodiil, sometimes the forums seem like everyone's just sleeping or doing other stuff, and so it doesn't really come along very well most of the time. So hopefully we can get out of that habit very soon, so that we can actually kick out the first release. I may actually say here that Stirk exterior and all the interiors are finished at this point. So we're just still waiting for the NPCs, and we've actually found someone to create that for us, who is also our head of lore. So yeah, hopefully we can kick out something soon that people will be interested in that, and hopefully a lot of people download that, and then we can get more modders, because that's also an issue that I've noticed. Like, there's not really a lot of people joining up with us and doing a showcase, and that's also why we're just stuck at some point, because a lot of people just always work on these projects, province mods, and then they just get burned out. It's an issue I've had as well. Like if you do a lot of interiors, and then at some point you just don't want to do anything anymore. You just want to do something else, and then everyone has the same feelings. Then yeah, it just doesn't move on. That's an issue we've had, and of course we would need a lot more modders. Maybe it's not something that people would expect, but we don't get a lot of showcases these days, unfortunately. Of course, there are some, but also notice that there are a lot of people just joining up, and they make a showcase and they say, "Hey, I'm, I don't know, just anyone," and then they say, "Oh well, I've made mods, and here's my showcase," or I'm a modder at Tamriel Build, and I'd like to join up, I'd like to help," and they don't do anything after that. Like they're just they're being promoted, and then they're just sitting there. Of course, they can do that, and I'm not saying anything against that, but that's probably one of the reasons why we really didn't, or why it took us so long to finish the first release, or even the interiors for the first release, because there were just so few modders and so few showcases. So I guess when we kick out the first release, maybe there's going to be more attention, maybe more people want to join up. I remember that at the Tamriel Build forums, there was really a lot of people joining up, and obviously they have a lot of modders as well, but or in general, but I guess that's probably because they've been around for a very long time. and we're just a fairly new project. But yeah, still, there's not really a lot of people joining up these days, and that's probably why the progress has halted in the past. But we're on a good way.
Oh yeah, I've noticed that there aren't quite as many people signing up these days as, well, there ought to be. Actually, I was planning to try and do something about that in the future. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but we recently started a Let's Mod Morrowind tutorial series on Morrowind Modding Showcases, and eventually I would like to do like showcase episodes in the future where I design a showcase for like Tamriel built, Province Cyrodiil, or Skyrim Home of the Nords, and hopefully teach people how to, sort of meet the showcase standards for each province team, and hopefully drive traffic over to those websites so modders will actually start signing up for more province mods.
Oh yeah, I've actually seen these tutorials you've been doing. You're doing a great job actually. I like that a lot. And also with the idea of actually doing a showcase as a video on YouTube. I think maybe that will give more confidence for people willing to join up. Maybe they're just sort of thinking that it's too hard, or maybe too harsh in the way that people treat them on the forums. I don't know what people are thinking, but maybe that's sort of the reasoning behind why a lot of people think they don't want to join up. So yeah, that would probably give confidence to them, and I would like to see that happening. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think people sort of imagining modding to be a lot harder than it actually is probably one of the main things that hold people back. It's like modding is actually really easy once you get down to it. It's like dialogue and quests even are very easy to design. It's just that sort of initial challenge of getting over the mental image of something being very hard. That's really the thing that people just need to get over, I think.
Yeah, sure. And also, we're just really fun people to work with. You know, you can just come on the interrelay chat and chat with us, and we're just really fun people to hang out with. It's not like we're super serious about what we do. Like, we don't put pressure on anyone. Like, if you have a claim, that sounds so yeah, it sounds like it's business, but it's really not. It's just you say, okay, I want to make this interior, and then you're just sitting there, and you can take as much time as you want to finish that claim. We don't put any pressure on people, and we're just really cool guys in general. So there's really no reason to hold back on a showcase, just because you get the feeling that we're so serious about what we do, that we would see it as some sort of business. It's just a hobby, and we all have our active phases, I would guess. So like sometimes we just don't do anything because we have other things to do, or because we just want to play some games. We don't want to mod at the time. It all happens, and everyone can do that, and nobody there are no constraints or anything like that.
Oh, definitely. And, well, modding is fun, and I certainly like to think that modders are fun people to be around. I certainly think so.
Yeah, sure. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this interview, I guess. We also some sort of yeah, we're just talking. It's just a normal conversation, I guess. So yeah, that should serve as an example of how social we can be, I guess. It's yeah. So I guess maybe when we have these interviews up, people will actually notice that that we're not difficult.
Yeah, you're not going to bite their heads off or anything.
Yeah, unlike those cliff races.
Or those fire-breathing cliff races that would just set you on fire.
Oh yeah, I would hope that those don't actually come to Cyrodiil or Skyrim. Although maybe it's gonna be quite a bit cold in Skyrim. That'll be interesting as well, like an interesting feature, like quest line where cliff races come to Skyrim and you have to fight them off. That would be interesting. I should post that on the forums.
Well, if Cyrodiil is a more tropical climate and cliff racers live in a sort of a warm ashland environment, I could see them maybe migrating over to Cyrodiil. Not sure about Skyrim though.
Yeah, it's definitely something we'll have to think about. Although I'm not sure if many people would like to see that. But yeah, we'll have to we'll have to start collecting some input. the community, I guess.
Moving on to another topic, are there any plans to add a main quest to either Province Cyrodiil or Skyrim Home of the Nords? Or barring a main quest, are there going to be any new factions that we'll be able to play through in these mods?
There is going to be a main quest or a main storyline for Province Cyrodiil. There have been some ideas on the old forums, some plans for characters. I'm not sure how much I want to spoil here, but it's something that evolves around like the son of Jagatharn. I think that's his name. He was the main antagonist in Daggerfall, as far as I know. Pretty interesting ideas, but it's not very long. Very it's not very far in the development right now. We're just focusing on designing the quests that will be in Stirk. But there are some ideas. So there's gonna be a main quest for sure. And there's at Skyrim Home of the Nords, there's also gonna be a main quest, but it's, as far as I know, it's gonna be more like a region based. So it's gonna be little bits of main quests, you know. So you're gonna have a main quest in the Reach that will sort of be about how Nords and Redguards are holding up. So there's been a war recently, and they're still fighting over Dragonstar, for instance. Or actually, no, not fighting, but there's a little bit of a rough time there. You're gonna notice that in game as well. And there's going to be some major quest line that's going to be about that, and also about in the other like sub regions. There's going to be on the other releases. There's going to be main quest lines as well. But it's we haven't decided yet, or I think we haven't decided that whether there will be a really big main quest line in Skyrim Home of the Nords. So it's something to be decided still. Regarding factions, I think there will be an Imperial Cult quest line or faction in both province mods. So obviously the role here will be a bit different. So on PC, obviously there will be an Imperial Cult, and there will be it'll be very common faction, and everyone will know what that is, and it's not going to be very similar to how it works in Morrowind, or how people treat you as a member of this faction, obviously, because that will be in Cyrodiil itself. And in Skyrim, it's a bit different as well, because with the Nords, although there are quite some similarities between Nordic and Imperial religion and stuff like that. So there we will have to see how that turns out. Maybe in terms of how the quest will be designed, it'll probably be quite similar. I think it's probably quite annoying. I always thought that the Imperial Cult was a very annoying quest line, and very confusing as well, because you started out playing and just collected like donations or something like that, and then you would probably end up just giving it to them out of your own pocket instead of actually collecting it. Really annoying. And then at some point you would out of the sudden you would venture out and find some sort of artifacts and stuff like that. It was really a weird gap between the types of quests. I thought that was a very weird quest line. Probably my least favorite quest line in the vanilla game. So we'll have to see how much we borrow from that for these quest lines at PC or Shot. So that's just the Imperial Cult, but obviously you'll see Fighter's Guild as well, Mage's Guild, and in Skyrim it's a bit special because you will have this other big faction that's a bit like the Fighters Guild. So they're called the Companions. You may know that from the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim. So that's gonna be in Sharten as well. But other than that, we are also planning to add some sort of anti-imperial movement at Skyrim Home of the North, I think. We haven't decided much on that, but it would be a great opportunity for people who want to roleplay a Nord who's probably more like anti-imperial. So just bringing up some different options for people to choose from. And in PC, There's also going to be, or there have been ideas about the census and excise quest line, which is going to be probably similar to the Imperial Cult in the vanilla game, but something like that, and some maybe with a little bit of politics in there as well, to make it to mix it up a bit. But yeah, that's a rough idea of what factions we're going to add. Of course, I may forget something here. I'm just a level designer, obviously, but yeah, those are some of the ideas that we've had.
Oh yeah, that all sounds very interesting. I imagine the Imperial Cult actually would be probably very different in Cyrodiil than in Morrowind. Morrowind has a more hostile culture towards other religions, though the Imperial Cult questline in Morrowind was sort of geared towards newer players and had a lot of good rewards that were especially helpful if you were a very early on player trying to just get by. So it's very interesting to hear that some factions that we're familiar with will be making a return in Province Cyrodiil.
Yeah, sure. We're also trying to, to connect to players in a way that they know what's going on in the province. So not everything should be new to them, and some familiar things should definitely return. That's also why we're planning to make some connections to something like when Caius Causadis is not in Morrowind anymore. You may actually find him in Cyrodiil at some point. That's just another idea that we've had. So we're definitely doing a good job at making people feel sort of familiar with the concepts here. Yeah, but obviously the quest lines could be a little bit different here, and obviously the Imperial Cult, and as you've mentioned, in terms of in terms of how they are being treated in Cyrodiil, is going to be very different in Cyrodiil.
Oh yeah, and speaking of Chaos Cascades, there are dialogue topics in Vanilla Morrowind talking about the unrest in the Imperial City, and will we actually be able to see some of that unrest?
Well, that's something we've had in these topics about the main quest line, so that may be connected to that in some way. Although I don't want to spoil too much, and we haven't really done a lot of that or done a lot of discussion on that matter. But yeah, it's definitely gonna be seen here, especially because we are actually we're looking very much for lore that we can use, and that was known and stuff that was known at the time of Morrowind, and we're looking to include as little from Oblivion as possible, I would say. So we're using bits here and there if they're fitting, but other than that, we're really looking out to find some stuff that we could use in Cyrodiil and our portrayal of Cyrodiil. So some of that dialogue really is interesting to look at for us. So we're including some of those ideas. Yeah. So you're definitely going to be seeing that, I think. But in what way remains to be seen.
Alright, and sort of going on to another topic. What's it like to work on a team for a province mod? Would you say it's much different from modding solo?
Well, that's an interesting question as well. I would say if you're working on a mod like Tamriel Rebuilds, it's a lot different from modding solo. So you have a pretty good organization, I would say. So you have this managing claim system. So these sort of claims. So you say, okay, I want to make this interior or I want to make this exterior, but you can only say that after someone has said, okay, here, there's going to be this interior in this area, and it's sort of like an organizational level that you have here, or sort of these different levels, so that the whole development is built up in a special way. And that's what you don't have when you're modding solo. Like you're just saying, okay, I want to make this, and now I don't want to make this anymore. Just bored, and now I want to make the exterior for this, and then I want to make a quest, and then you're going back to interiors. But it's different here, obviously, because you're working with a team, and you need some sort of level of organization. So that's certainly something that you see in Tamriel Rebuild. And obviously, now with some of the organizational changes that we've been getting into at Skyrim Home of the Nords and Province Cyrodiil, we're we're starting to it's starting to become a little bit similar to that. But I'm gonna have to admit that in the past it was very very similar to at least at Skyrim Home of the North, was very similar to modding solo. So as you may know, our main project leader was it was mostly his solo project when he started Skyrim Home of the North. So most of the exteriors are made by him, and only some areas are made by me, for instance. And it was just a matter of one person making a giant exterior and everyone else working off that. But he made pretty much all the design decisions. He also made all the models, and he put up the claims and everything. So that was really unlike Tamriel Rebuilt. So maybe that was also a reason why many people were probably scared or something like that to join, because it was so different from what they were used to at Tamriel Rebuilt. So that was very similar to modding on your own. But now it's getting a little bit different. So now we're actually working together. we're doing more planning. So now we're not just making exteriors and then everyone will have to deal with what's there, but now we're actually planning what's going to be in an area. We've got the Colovian Highlands coming up, for instance, in or at province Cyrodiil, and then we're going to say, okay, we want to have these kind of cultural aspects, these kind of quests, and then the exterior and interior models are going to have to work with that and going to shape the world space according to these plans. So now it's also different from modding solo, but in the first phases, I would say it was very similar, actually, more similar than you would think.
No, I've just always sort of been curious about the organizational structure at province mod teams, because it seems to me that if you divide the labor up like between interiors, quest design, and exterior design, that doesn't sort of create a barrier in creative direction. Like as a solo modder, usually I start out on the offset with like a quest design, and then I build the interiors to match that quest design, and make the NPCs to match that quest design. And so if you divide that all out between different modders, doesn't that affect the creative ability of each modder to some degree?
Yeah, certainly. That's probably what I was getting at. Like, you had the problem before, or in general, you have the problem that you have to connect uh, uh, afterwards. Like, there's going to be exteriors first, and then there's going to be interiors, and then there's going to be quests. But what if that doesn't fit? And what if people, what if people have very different visions for a certain area? Like, it's not really consistent in some way, as opposed to how you make interiors and exteriors when you're just making this all on your own, because obviously it's going to fit very well together because that's your whole idea that you have. And then that's one of the major challenges that we are facing here with the province mods. But as of recently, we have some pretty strong planning going on, as I said, and now it's working out better for in every regard, actually, so that everyone knows what's going to be in this area, and everyone can participate in the discussions. That's a lot easier now, and easier, of course, and a lot more fun, and it's overall it's going to be more consistent. So that's but I think that's a different topic as well, or a different question.
Now, sort of going on to the next question, both Skyrim Home of the Nords and Province Cyrodiil are pretty massive mods. Just how much planning goes into making them and getting each release to the public ready?
Yeah, they're pretty massive. What you would normally suppose is that we're doing a lot of planning, and I may have said that already, but we're doing a lot of planning, but probably not as much planning as everybody would expect. So a lot of the modding really just it goes off like this. Someone just mods, and they're making interiors and exteriors, and in the end, everything goes to one guy or maybe a couple of guys, and they make quests in that area, and then in the end you'll have something that is more or less consistent. And so there's not really that much planning going on overall. Of course, there's always going to be planning. Maybe mean, there's probably a couple people who are just screaming out loud right now because they do so much planning, and I'm talking about it like there's really not a lot of planning. But yeah, mostly we'll have to be honest here. Um, it's a lot of the time it's like we're not thinking straight in terms of the organization, and we're just sort of yeah, head straight, and we just go on and just mod something, and in the end it'll have to fit somehow, and mostly it doesn't. So that's some of that may, yeah, some people may experience that when they play through our lands and through our mods. But yeah, in general, the planning phases go a bit like we say, okay, we're gonna have these and these characters, and that's also something that we've had at Stirk, which is quite a bit better than than all the other stuff. Also at Tamriel Build, they didn't have have that there. We are actually doing character design, so we're saying, okay, um, we have this character and they have these habits, these possessions. This is their social status, and they're living here and there, and this is their relation to this other character, and so on. And then when we create the interiors, or actually when we created the interiors, they already finished. Then we can actually look at these character designs and let this input guide us, so that we know what kind of objects to place and so on. So that's the sort of planning that we do in terms of interior modding, and then obviously the quest designer can use that input as well to design the NPCs. So yeah, there's some planning going on there, but mostly it's just doing it, just sitting there and in front of your construction set, and then you get the ideas as you mod, and then it's just something that you create, and all the other people are gonna have to work with that, and that's really a big challenge. So a lot of planning may also get dumped in some way, so that people don't actually listen to what other people are saying. But that's what you have probably in the industry as well, I guess. So yeah, it's all a natural process. But yeah, a lot of planning goes into that, but not as much as people would expect, I think.
Now, both projects take place in provinces that have been covered by later Elder Scrolls games, obviously. Is there very much influence from Oblivion or Skyrim at all in Skyrim Home of the Nords or Province Cyrodiil? I know you mentioned that you're trying to use as little from Oblivion as possible, but how much would you say has Oblivion and Skyrim influenced the perspective province mods?
Well, I think at Province Cyrodiil, it's not a lot. We're taking some of the inspiration from there, from Oblivion. Like some creature designs, for instance, the Minotaur, for instance, that we have, or some of the creatures, or some of the rock designs, for instance. That was one of the things that I really liked about Oblivion, like the rock designs with the grass on top and stuff like that. I think we're actually getting some inspiration from there, but it's not really much. I think we're taking most of our lore from the Morrowind books and from the PGE. But at Skyrim, Home of the North is a little bit different. We're taking a lot of stuff from Skyrim because obviously, well, not obviously, maybe some people will disagree, but I think The Elder Scrolls V is a much better game than Oblivion was, and the designs are much more spot on. And we thought we can use some of that. For instance, the barrow designs that we have in the Reach, that we'll use throughout the whole province, they are very much like the assets are shaped a lot like the barrows look in Test 5, and we also use or our textures are very much inspired by that as well. So that is some sort of stuff that we're taking from there. I'm also very much interested in some of the city designs. I think Windhelm, for instance, is very much spot on. Very great city in the Elder Scrolls 5. So I think we should probably go with something that is looking quite similar to that in regards to Windhelm, for instance. Solitude had Halfingar, as you would say. In Skyrim Home of the North, we call it differently because some of the names are kind of fucked up in Skyrim. Excuse me. Um, I think they called the Hold Halfingar, whereas it's actually called Halfenheim, or should be called Halfenheim, and Halfingar is is actually the Nordic name for solitude. So yeah, some of the names are a bit off there at Test 5, but a lot of the design is pretty good. So we're taking that as well. Also the Tundra design in Central Skyrim. We're probably going to be influenced by quite a bit of that. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming from there. There's also a lot of stuff that I dislike and that we generally dislike. For instance, the Falmer, they're not going to be in there the way that you see them in Skyrim. And the Forsworn, as you call them in the game there. Actually, we call them that as well, but they are really different. They're not really portrayed well in TES 5. Really bad actually. They don't have any character. And there's rarely the motivation behind their action is really not, or the actions is really not shown. And the actual Reachman resistance, as we call it, is actually explained a lot better in our dialogue. So yeah, we're changing quite a bit of that. But yeah, obviously they had their reasons. The developers had their reasons to change some of these things. Although I cannot understand some of these things. Yeah, but there is some influence, but there are also a lot of things we're changing. Yeah.
Well, Skyrim definitely had a really good and solid art direction, so it is good to know that Skyrim Hammer the Nords is taking advantage of some of that. So long as the cities, like Solitude, aren't extremely small like they are in Skyrim.
Yeah, obviously that's some sort of direction we go into as well. Like our cities are really a lot bigger, although that is some sort of rough discussion that we've had on the forums regarding city size or town sizes. Like we had Karthwasten, or however you want to pronounce it, which is really just way too big if you're gonna be honest. I think we have like 80 to 19 interiors, and that's just it proved to be difficult to make all these interiors, and now we're making, or we're finishing up, or actually just Yeti is finishing up all the quests for that area, and it's just so much, you know. If the towns get too big, you're gonna have trouble filling them with life. So that's something that you have to consider as well. But yeah, obviously they're not gonna be as small as they are in Skyrim. Yeah, then like I think Solitude probably has like a maximum of 30 interiors, while it should be a really big city, like capital-like city. So it's going to be very much bigger in our vision. But we haven't worked on that yet. There's just a couple, yeah, a couple of houses and ships in that area that someone placed around for fun. But yeah, we're definitely thinking about making this a little bit bigger, but not as big as like 160 interiors. That would be way too much. Like you couldn't possibly fill that in a reasonable time. Like then you would probably have to wait for a lot longer. So we'd rather not do that. And also you have to sort of think about the perspective in the vanilla game as well. So like Aldruin or Balmora, that these towns didn't have a lot of interiors. They just felt like cities because of the way they were designed. I think that's a pretty cool thing, and we should pick that up as well. So yeah, our cities are gonna be bigger than vanilla towns for the most part, I guess. At least that's something we've had or that we've done so far. But for the most part, oh, no, not for the most part, but some cities should be similar in size. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've heard that Karthwasten has about 80 to 90 interiors in it, and well, I imagine that Solitude will be pretty large, but you're not going to make it as large as, say, Tamriel built Almalexia, which was a pretty massive city.
Yeah, Almalexia is is also an interesting matter because it has been redesigned so many times. I think the one city that'll come closer to Almalexia and will be very much bigger than Almalexia will be the Imperial City. That'll be very much bigger, but I don't think we're gonna have any other city in either province that will match Almalexia. Although I'm gonna be honest, I haven't seen the recent version of Almalexia. Like, it has been redesigned 2 times or 3 times. I can't even count how many times. It's just a giant mess. But it's really big, and I don't think we want to have any city that's as big as that, other than the Imperial City. This is gonna be that's gonna be quite a tough task for us to make the city. But obviously, it should be as big as it deserves, and it deserves a lot of space dedicated to it. So it's gonna be a lot of small islands connected to this main big island, and it's gonna be a lot of cells and a lot of interiors, and it's gonna be very much work for us. So that'll be bigger than Almalexia, but we don't have any plans for any other towns to be as big as Almalexia, not really.
Well, you certainly got me hyped for the Imperial City, and going back to the province Cyrodiil topic. It has been a while since the province Cyrodiil team last made a public release. Is there anything in the works right now? And can you tell us a bit about what will be included in the next release?
Yeah, next release will be Stirk. So it was already the first release kind of, but that was only an alpha release. So we are releasing Stirk with all the quests. I mean, not all the quests, but a lot of quests and all the NPCs, and hopefully maybe some sort of quest line as well. Like, it's going to be about pirates and hidden grottos and so on. So we'll see some of that. But we, yeah, other than that, there's going to be just this island and a little bit of seafloor areas to explore, and with some ruins as well. There are some highlight ruins that you can explore. So that'll be pretty interesting. And after that, we're planning to release the Gold Coast. We've also had some. Yeah, I've made a lot of exteriors there as well. You may have seen like the big ruin on top of that cliff. It's called Galas Agea. And then of course Anvil is going to be in the release after Stirk. So there's quite some areas that we are planning to release, but obviously it's always the questing holding us back. Yeah, so hopefully they'll be released quite soon. We'll see about that.
Now, speaking of releases, Skyrim Home of the Nords has mentioned that they're close to releasing a new part of the Skyrim province. I believe that's the area around Karthwasten. Can you tell us a bit about that and when we might expect to see it?
Well, as to when you might expect to see it, it's not gonna be that soon, I guess. It's done when it's done, but we're pretty far along already, I guess. The interiors are all ready by now, all finished, and we're just finishing up some caves in the area. But NPCing is already going on, and we also have a lot of quest ideas, and the exterior is finished as well. So yeah, you can probably expect that fairly soon, but I wouldn't want to settle on a date here. Um, Yeah, and we also bring some updates to the existing areas. The area around Cathgard, or Ambergard as it was formerly known, has changed a bit. We have some new designs in that area, and we're trying to bring the province a bit more up to par to what you had in vanilla, because it was really different with the large forests, and also a lot of large and flat plains that were just really not interesting, with a lot of ground cover and not much else. And we've sort of thought about changing that a bit. So some of these changes will hopefully be in the next release already. Um, yeah, and other than that, you'll have the city of Karthwasten and some of the quests, and hopefully a lot of different topics and lore established. We have a lot of lore established around the Reachmen and also the Redguard movements around the city. So that's pretty interesting. I think you're gonna like it.
Oh, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more Skyrim in the Karthwasten area. And, well, I do have the releases, well, fairly soon. I believe the original estimate was by the end of 2014, so we're a bit past that now.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can quite meet that deadline. um, but I think we can give the estimate of finishing that sometime this year. Maybe maybe towards the end of 2015, but we'll see how that goes. Um, yeah, you'll know how it goes. But if Yeti hurries up finishing those quests, then we may have something to show off quite soon.
Oh yeah, just put all the pressure on another martyr.
Yeah, that's just how we are, right? So maybe maybe under the hood we're just not really all that friendly, you know? Maybe we do put pressure on other people.
Oh yes, and recently a number of province mods have joined together in a province union, utilizing the same central forum board and developer showcase review board. Has there been a lot of organizational changes with Province Cyrodiil and Skyrim Home of the Nords since the Province Union was made official?
Yeah, it's actually boosted us quite a bit. So we're now more active. Like we had like this some sort of silent phase before we had the province union. Like nobody was really doing anything, and we're not getting very far with what we did there. But then with the province union, now we're actually getting some work done. I think it's really helped giving us some motivation to finish up the areas that we're going to release. Regarding the organizational changes, it's mostly that the forums are merged and that you have different permissions for different moderators and administrators. And regarding the how the claim system works, not really much has changed. I would say it's very similar to what we had before. But also along with the union came this idea of having these master planning threads that that serve just the purpose to do more planning beforehand, so that you don't end up like having um, one guy doing a lot of areas and not really thinking about what could be in there, and then just doesn't match afterwards. So that's something that we are already changing right now, and that came sort of simultaneously with the province union. And yeah, as you've mentioned, we also have a unified showcase now. So if you, I think you had that. You have that in another question, so maybe I should hold that back. But yeah, it's definitely helping. It's been a great idea, and also you're not really dependent on having two different hosts, and yeah, just a smaller number of issues in general. So yeah, I think it's a great thing. But maybe not a lot of organizational changes, but a couple of convenient ones.
Now, I remember that one of the arguments for the union, before the union was actually implemented, was resource sharing. Now, would you say that the union of province mods has made resource sharing between teams a lot easier?
Actually, no, I don't think so. There has been some discussion recently about merging the data files, but yeah, we mostly settled with that it's not really a good idea. Mostly because the loading times and like you'd have a lot of objects that you may not be actually using, and some of the models that are only active at Skyrim Home of the North would have to download all the assets included with Province Cyrodiil, and so on. And that's something that made us decide that this is not really a good idea. And regarding resource sharing in general, that was not really a problem before, so it's not really something that so the province union didn't really help in that regard. So it's just in general our policy that we share resources, so that Province Cyrodiil may use anything that Skyrim Home of the North uses. So if there's like this plant or some plank or whatever, then that can be easily ported and included in the PC or Skyrim Home of the North's data files as well. So yeah, that was pretty easy beforehand already. So the only change that we could have made was to merge the data files, but we didn't want to do so for obvious reasons. And so that's pretty much how it goes now.
Now, since the province mod union, if a modder submits a showcase to the Project Tamriel forum, they can technically apply to any of the 4 province mods being hosted on Project Tamriel, such as Cyrodiil, Skyrim, High Rock, and Project Outreach. Has it been helpful to have approved modders immediately available to work on another team if they so desire to do so?
Yeah, first of all, it's good to know, or actually good to know for other people, but also good in terms of the interview that you mentioned, Project Outreach as well, and High Rock, because they are also part of this province union. So I probably shouldn't focus too much on just Cyrodiil and Skyrim here. But yeah, so now if you make a showcase, then that's a new thing that we've done here. That then you're going to be able to mod for any province here that's hosted on PT. And also, that's another policy that we have. Like, if you're a modder at Tamriel Rebuilds, then you're also automatically a modder at PT. So then you're also automatically a modder at Cyrodiil, Skyrim, High Rock, and Project Outreach. So this is a pretty cool decision, I think, because yeah, obviously we've had this policy before that if you were promoted at Skyrim Home of the North, and you could make a showcase at PC, and then we would say, okay, you were promoted there, so you promoted here as well. But now we have just one central forum for sorting that stuff out, and then you make one showcase, and you don't have to repost anything, and it's just a lot more convenient for everyone, I think. So that is certainly helpful, I think. I'm not sure how helpful it's going to prove to be in the future, because as I said, there's not really that many people joining up. Um, but yeah, what I noticed as well is like a lot of people really come to the forums with the goal to be modding for just one province. So they're just saying, okay, I'm interested in Skyrim only, so I'll be applying for Scamp with the Nords only, which is pretty pointless because you'll be applying for both, or for actually all the province mods at the same time. But they are just going to be or they're just going to be active at Skyrim Hall of the Nords. I've noticed that is the case with a lot of modders. But yeah, they can do whatever they desire. I'm not sure how much it has helped overall, but I think it's just a good thing to have. So it's just a lot more convenient.
Oh yeah, it's probably a bit difficult to gauge how helpful it is early on like this. The province union was only in January. Hopefully later on we'll see some better results. And it does lower the barrier of entry, which is important. And I do think that after some time, I imagine that well, a province modder who gets burned out, say working on Skyrim, it might be useful to be able to go to work on Elsewhere or High Rock or Cyrodiil.
Yeah, exactly, and especially they're not gonna have to make a separate showcase thread anymore. Maybe they wouldn't want to do so in the past, and that's why they didn't do so, or that's why they didn't participate in the other mod. So that's probably going to be helpful here. Yeah, certainly.
Now, I am kind of curious, since High Rock and Elsewhere in particular are projects that I think a lot of people didn't even know were out there still, and they're still alive, and there's still progress being made on them. I don't think they have very large teams, though, do they?
No, not at all. Actually, there's just a couple people working on either project. I think for High Rocks, just mostly 3 or 4 people. Um, and for I'm not sure. I don't want to say anything wrong here, but there's not a lot of people working on that. No, it's definitely less um, than the team behind Skyrim Hall of the Nords or Province Cyrodiil, I think. But yeah, it's just the impression that I got. I'm not really involved in those 2 projects, but I'm just watching the forums, and I don't believe that there's too many people now.
That's certainly something I hope will change over time. I do think it's important for the community to get more modders sort of streaming into the province mods so that we can get those finished and have something to show off for the Morrowind modding community.
Yeah, I sure hope so as well. Like I said, it's the teams are quite small, and that's probably why we're taking so long. Uh, I think it's unfortunate because a lot of people are really curious to see all of this stuff happening and all of this stuff coming to the game. And I remember not being part of any province mod. when I started playing Morrowind, I was really interested, and I was just really curious to see the new landmasses that were gonna come out. Like before Cyrodiil was out, I was just really looking forward to that, and I just couldn't wait, And now that I'm on a different side, with a different perspective, I can just see that there's just not enough people for that. So I hope a lot of people who think similarly to that, to how I felt before I joined the province mods, will actually come up and join the mods to help. And of course, they will be spoiled about what will be on the landmass, but it's just overall, you never know everything that's in the mod because there's so many interiors, and you're just not gonna look at everything in detail. So there's always gonna be some stuff that you don't know, even though you're working on the project. So I should, yeah, I should say I'm definitely encouraging people to join up. So then we can hopefully have some more support.
Oh yeah, I've been making the argument recently that if you want to see a project get done, then you should sign up and try and help and get that project finished. I mean, I might come off as a bit of a hypocrite there because obviously I'm not a member of any of the province teams, but in my defense, I am running a YouTube channel. But as I was saying before, modding is easy, and if people just, take the time, do a little bit of modding, they can make all these projects come along a lot faster.
Yeah, like I said, you don't even have to do anything. Like you probably could even join up and just not do anything after that. It would still help. Would still help us because we'd have some more motivation. Like anytime you see someone joining up and making a showcase, you're thinking, oh well, this is actually helping and this is actually fun. So it definitely helps us to boost our motivation if someone joins up. So even if you join up and do nothing else other than joining up and making a showcase, it still helps. So there's no reason not to join up, definitely. So, and like I said, we're not putting any pressure on anyone. So even if you just claim something, you can sit on that claim for months to come, as long as you post some sort of update, and that update is mostly just along the lines of you putting in some text to show that that you haven't died or anything. I don't know. Or you just rotate some rock or just place a new table, and then that's good for an update. So we really don't wanna put pressure on anyone. So it's just I don't see why anybody would just join up, and it's really easy to learn, as you said. So there are really just only reasons for joining, not against it.
Oh yeah, and I remember that with Tamriel built on the forums, I think they have like a 6-month wait time to hear back for someone on a claim before they close it and move it to someone else.
Oh, was it 6 months now? Oh, I actually thought it was. I think when I left, it was like 1 month or so. Or actually 1 month, and then when you haven't posted an update, like you have like another couple of weeks. I don't know. They may have loosened it up a bit. Um, but yeah, certainly it's just a matter of just posting something to show that you're still there and that you're still working on it.
It may still be 1 month. I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, I'm not a member of the team. I'm just an outsider that likes to look on the Tamriel built forums on occasion. Now, moving on to some more personal questions. What draws you to modding video games?
Yeah, well, that is hard question to answer because yeah, thinking about it, I would probably say I'm always striving to sort of let out my creativity in some way. Nowadays I'm also a programmer, so there's also other ways to let that out. But in the past, when you didn't have the capabilities to make your own game through programming, it was sort of the only option to work with your inspiration and to somehow let that out in some way and to show that off to people. I think that's also what draws me to modding, like this feeling that you got that when people actually like what you made and people are impressed or they like to play that or they just give you some sort of feedback. That's something that I really like to see, even if it's sometimes not really easy to work on your claims, like it's really annoying or you don't have a lot of motivation. Then if you think about how it will be like when you show it off to the other people, they're going to be amazed or they're going to say, oh well, this is good work. And then that's really what I'm always looking forward to. I think that's a big part about modding that makes it so fun. So I think a lot of people would probably agree with me. It's really great to get some feedback in the community if you release a mod and they like it and they play it. Yeah, so obviously that's some sort of motivation behind that. Other than that, I just really like to mod games. Um, Maybe little bit off topic. Like before I played Morrowind, there was like this one turn-based strategy game that's very popular on Linux actually. It's called Battle for West North. Probably nobody knows this game. It's not very popular, but it's really cool because you could make your own campaigns through some sort of scripting language. We could specify factions and everything and units on the map. And you could make your own campaigns through that, and that was really cool because it had a very vibrant modding community as well, with a lot of people making their own campaigns and so on. And I also started doing that before I knew Morrowind, and it was really just a cool way to let out your creativity and to work on some stuff other than just playing games. So maybe just the idea to create video games, and if you can create them, to at least enhance them in some way. That's really what draws me to modding.
Oh yeah, I think it's a similar process for a lot of people. I mean, not everyone can go out and make an entire new game and just by themselves. And modding is a really accessible, really easy process to just sort of get your ideas and make them sort of into a reality.
Yeah, sure. That's exactly what I think about it. Just that you don't have the capabilities of making your own game, and then it's just easier if you have an existing engine and all the tools behind that you can enhance it easily. And yeah, as we've said numerous times, it's very easy to learn modding, and it's not so easy to learn programming and modeling and stuff like that. So just modding with the existing assets is just really cool way to relax and just to make something out of your free time, I guess.
Now, have you been influenced by any non-Elder Scrolls games when you mod?
Um, Barely, I would say. There's one game that may have influenced me. It's called The Witcher. That's a great game, obviously. I can recommend that. That may have influenced me, especially the cities in this game, or the one city that you actually visit. I think that may have influenced me a bit when I was working on Wiener Cross or Stirk. But yeah, it's also a fantasy setting, so yeah, it has influenced me a bit. But other than that, I really just only draw inspiration from Elder Scrolls games. I don't think there's any other games that I've drawn inspiration from.
Now, do you listen to any music while you mod? And if so, is there anything in particular you like to listen to?
I do like my creative silence when I listen to music. It's usually the Lord of the Rings soundtrack. Absolutely fantastic. It's just great to have in the background. It's just a great masterpiece of soundtrack. Um, I like to listen to that, and when it's not that, it's probably something like the Skyrim game soundtrack. That's just great. I love the composer. He's just great at what he does. It's not usually not the Morrowind soundtrack, but mostly it's the Skyrim soundtrack, or sometimes even the Oblivion soundtrack. It's great as well. But yeah, not really any rock music or so. I don't like to listen to that while modding. I need some atmospheric music in the background, some sort of to give me some inspiration, and also to just have this feeling of just relaxing and just doing some modding instead of instead of having all this tension and stuff. Yeah, so it's mostly like atmospheric music or film score, that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, Skyrim in particular has some really great atmospheric music. I believe there's one music track on the soundtrack that's like 42 minutes long. It's just like ambient background music with birds chirping and all of that, and that's really relaxing to listen to.
Yeah, I actually have the the signature edition of the soundtrack, which was signed personally by Jeremy Soule. And yeah, I think that's the fourth disc that has the Skyrim atmosphere track. Yeah, very beautiful indeed.
Oh yes, I have the same soundtrack edition. Bethesda did a promotion, I think, when they were doing that. And they were taking pre-orders, and I just whipped out my debit card right away and just made an order.
Yeah, shut up and take my money, right?
Yeah, basically, it has Jeremy's soul on it. Definitely take my money. I even supported his Kickstarter campaign.
Oh yeah, I didn't do that, but I should have done that probably. Just really a huge fan. He's just great. He does fantastic soundtracks, and they're just always fitting very well with the game itself. And it's just great to listen to while modding.
Now, are there any projects that you're working on outside of Skyrim Home of the Nords and Province Cyrodiil that are just sort of your own personal independent projects?
Yeah, as I've said before, I've made some mods, but I'm not doing so anymore. So there are not any independent projects besides the big province mods. I wouldn't have time for that, honestly. It happens quite often that I don't even find time for Skyrim Home of the Nords or Province Cyrodiil. So having even more projects, that would be quite a bit of a hassle there. So yeah, I don't have any modding projects. If you're saying projects in general, then yeah, I do have some programming going on, programming my own 2D strategy game, which I'm working on every now and then. But that's a different matter, I guess.
Now, is there something you would love to see in game, but don't have the time to do it yourself?
Yeah, I wouldn't like to see anything regarding the world space. As I've said before the interview, I'm not really interested in seeing any game world changes or any quest changes. Like I really want to have my vanilla game the way it was when I played it for the first time. But I think I do like changes to the engine and changes to the graphics in some way. Some pretty interesting things. Like what I would like to see in game would be, so, for instance, that the sun would disappear behind the clouds and everything would become darker for a short amount of time. That would be great to see. Some little things like that that would help immerse yourself with the game. That would be some interesting things. But yeah, it's also something I probably can't even do. So it's not only a matter of time that I don't have.
Sort of going into that, if you had absolutely no constraints holding you back, besides the capabilities of the construction set and other programs, what mod would you most like to make, or what portion of the province mods would you most like to design?
Oh well, now that yeah, now that you've extended the question a bit about about areas in the province mods I would like to design where I would have no constraints, that would certainly be High Hrothgar, so the throat of the world as it's called in Test 5 Skyrim. I would like to design that in a way that it will actually be like really giant mountain, really impressive in game, with a lot of forests around and just also just a really great draw distance, like you're standing on top of the mountain and just looking at the distance. That would be great to make in a way that it's just probably beyond what the engine can handle right now. So yeah, that would be great. I'm probably gonna make the mountain anyway. Not gonna let anybody else get their hands on that thing because I'm really, as you know, I like mountains, and the biggest mountain um, in Skyrim. That will be a great challenge. But I'm not sure if I could make it exactly the way that I would want to make it. So I think that would be. I think there's like a limit of 30,000 game units that you can have in terms of mountains, and also probably would look a bit stupid with Red Mountain just being really small in comparison to that. So I don't know if that would be so good, but yeah, that would certainly be great to do.
Oh yeah, High Hrothgar is well, definitely a very pertinent part of Skyrim lore, and also it was something that Skyrim the game didn't exactly get perfectly right. Todd Howard, in his interviews beforehand, he said there was going to be 7,000 steps to High Hrothgar, and they were going to have all 7,000 steps. And when the game actually came out, I think it was something like 700.
Yeah, they may have forgot to add the additional the additional zero there at the end. But yeah, that was a bit disappointing indeed. I think it looks really great in terms of yeah how the mountain is shaped. But yeah, they didn't have the full 7,000 steps. That was a bit disappointing indeed. I think I think we're safe to say that we can try to add the 7,000 steps. We'll see how many we can get in there. Just curious to see that, yeah, if we ever get there, with us being so slow.
Now, if you could make a single change to the capabilities of the construction set, what would it be?
Oh, this is my very favorite question because there's so many things I would like to change in the construction set. But if I could make a single change, then I would probably change the overall performance of the construction set. That's the one thing that really bugs me every now and then. Like, if you have a cell that has more than 1,000 references in it, and then you switch back and forth between different cells, then it just takes so much time to load. And in the construction set, then in the render window, if you rotate your camera, it'll just lag, and the frame drops are real. Wow, it's just really annoying. So that's something I would change. That the construction set will be totally fluent, like always like 160 FPS. I don't know, whatever. So more FPS than I would be able to actually notice or to actually realize with my own eyes. It'll be more fun to work with, I think, and also consume less time overall because a lot of time just sitting there and waiting for this thing to load up. It's just crazy. And also, I would maybe it's sort of related to that. I would limit the amount of crashes because that's also annoying if you don't have the auto save on and it'll just crash because there's just too many references or whatever, or you just rotated your camera too quickly, or you just had if you have like in an exterior you have like 200 objects that you have selected and then you're just dragging them across 3 cells and would just crash on you. Really frustrating. So I would change that.
Oh yeah, the lag, particularly with exterior cells that have a lot of references in them, like 1,000 plus, is definitely really annoying with the construction set. Few people probably know this, but at one point in time, during my more overly ambitious stage, I started work on a massive city, and at one point there were multiple exterior cells, so something like 1,200 to 1,500 references in each cell, and trying to load them and rotate the camera in the editor was, well, a very painstaking process.
Yeah, I remember a discussion at I think that was really funny at the time. There was a discussion at Tamriel where they had some sort of gazebo or something like that in Narcissus, which had like I don't know just a lot of polygons, and it just caused a tremendous lag in the construction set and in game for everyone, and was just this one mesh, and everyone was making fun of that. So yeah, that's pretty interesting as well. So I hope that some changes coming up with more open Morrowind will increase the performance here.
Going on to another question. I know a lot of province modders don't really spend a whole lot of time playing other mods outside of the province mod that they're working on, but are there any mods or modders in the community that currently have your attention?
Mostly it's the mods that change the gameplay itself or the game mechanics. So Morrowind Patch, for instance, very great, especially for its map extension. It's a very great feature. I really like Morrowind Patch. I have always have the latest version of that installed, and Morrowind Graphics Center obviously has my attention, and Open Morrowind as well. Other than that, yeah, maybe probably SWG Skies. That's also something I really like and I use as well. It doesn't change the atmosphere too much of the game, so I guess that's probably why I'm using it. And just really beautiful. So that's something I'm using as well, and I'm currently watching, but not any more than that. Yeah.
Are there any mods, or perhaps parts of the province mods that you're working on, that you look at and think, I wish I made that?
Well, yeah, actually, I regarding things that other project modders or province modders have made. There's like pretty much all the exteriors that Neiman or Lemon or whatever you want to call him made for Tamriel Rebuild. He's just a great source of inspiration for me. Every exterior he makes, like you can really see that so much creativity and just overall skill went into making these exteriors. Like every time I look at one of his exteriors, I just think, wow, I wish I made that because it's just really great. There's just one example of like a mountain range in the actually you don't actually say map 4 anymore. I don't know the right terminology at the moment, but you know the Heartlands area. And then to the west in the Veloten Mountains, there's this one claim that he made with a Dwemer ruin surrounded by some sort of mountain range. And that was just so beautiful. And I could never match that with any of my claims. It's just, he just knows how to do things. And it's just something that really inspired me. Everything I did and everything that I've done at the time when I was at Tamriel Rebuild was pretty much inspired by what he did. It was just my point of reference at all times. So yeah, that certainly answers this question. Answers this question, I guess.
Now, what do you think of Open Morrowind? And do you think that Skyrim Home of the Nords or Province Cyrodiil will take advantage of any of the features in Open Morrowind and maybe become Open Morrowind only mods? Or do you think both projects will remain vanilla Morrowind compatible?
I'm a huge fan of the idea. I'm actually thinking about joining up at some point, but um, it's a little bit hard to find time for it. But Open Morrowind is definitely something I'm currently watching, and I'm really interested in seeing how that'll turn out when it's even more finished than it already is. And certainly, I think there's a lot of people, or actually, there's been discussion on that as well. So I think there's a lot of people who are willing to make our province mods open Morrowind only, and I definitely approve of that as well. But we'll have to see how that works. But it could become open Morrowind only because I think at some point most people are probably going to use open Morrowind. It's definitely a great project, and it will certainly help boost performance and stuff so that we can actually build real rainforests, for instance, and real jungle areas with a lot of vegetation going on. I'm not sure if the actual engine can handle that, so I'd like to see our project, especially Province Cyrodiil, become dependent on Open Morrowind so that we have some more capabilities in that range. So yeah, certainly something I can see coming there.
Going into that, are there any features, systems, and/or mechanics that you are most looking forward to being included or de-hard coded in Open Morrowind?
Yeah, it's something that's really annoying if you're working on the game that you can't change some things in the game, like the weather types, or I'm particularly interested in having more types of modes for the AI, so especially also the followers and stuff, that would be a little bit more intelligent and that you can add or that we would have more freedom in designing the behavior of specific types of enemies and stuff like that. I'm not sure about how much there will be in Open Morrowind regarding that in the Open Construction set, but that is certainly something I'd like to see sort of de-hard coded. Other than that, uh, yeah, yeah, well, like the weather types and the standard stuff, I guess. But yeah, that's probably the biggest change I'd like to see, and obviously the fact that the game is single player only, because I think it would be really fun to just walk around and do quests with one or two of your friends. That would be great as well.
Oh yeah, the Morrowind's AI is probably one of the weakest parts of the game. It certainly has quite a few limitations, and a lot of the AI script functions are a bit on the buggy side. Like AI position cell, I think is that has some issues on occasion, and AI travel sometimes runs into problems.
Yeah, I can certainly remember that. You know, running around with your followers, and they were just in the exteriors were just taking the exact same path that you have taken, and then sometimes when you were thinking a bit out of the box and you know kind of cheating, like exploiting the engine and jumping like very often rapidly, and then just climb some hills that you normally wouldn't be able to climb through that sort of rapidly jumping, then people they or your followers they would just follow up on you and try to take the same path, and that wouldn't be possible. And then That was always very frustrating that they wouldn't just take another way around, but they couldn't do so because there were no path grids laid out in the exteriors, and that's very, very, very narrow in the way that you can design the AI there, and really annoying in the game. So I hope that'll be de-hard coded. Yeah.
Sort of going on to our final few questions. What do you think about the other Elder Scrolls games like Oblivion, Skyrim, and the Elder Scrolls Online?
Oh well, maybe I'll start with the Elder Scrolls Online because there's not much to say about that. I'm definitely not a fan. General not a fan of MMOs, and also a lot of the lore that is being introduced in the Elder Scrolls Online is just not really something I'm a fan of. Just like the factions and the connections being made between different races and stuff like that. Really not a big fan. I'm gonna say that. Regarding Oblivion, like I said, I really played that game a lot, but there's some issues with that. Like I think the level scaling was very terrible. I think everybody's gonna agree with me here that like, at some point when you were level 50 or so, like every bandit is gonna have glass and Daedric armor really bad, and that is something that I don't like in general. That you have the Daedric armor available everywhere. I think that was something that was really special in Morrowind. Like you had this Daedric armor set that was really available only one or two times throughout the game. Two times actually, if you had the expansions installed, and so you were really was really rewarding if you found a piece of Greaves or like the main cuirass. And that was really rewarding. And then in Oblivion, they just threw that stuff at you at some point, and that was really annoying. Also, like the creatures that you encountered on the road at some point, really over the top. Very bad design in my opinion, and also the overall landscape design and yeah, also the character faces they were kind of gimp. I don't know. It's not something I like now looking at it in retrospect, but at that time I had a lot of fun playing it. I'll be honest with you here. So that's that. And for Skyrim, I'm gonna say that it's sort of hard to talk to people about this game, especially because I like it a lot, and other people tend to not like it a lot if they are big fans of Morrowind. But I think the problem here is that people tend to compare it to Morrowind, and then it sort of yeah, it can only lose against Morrowind in how great it is, but or in how great the games are. But I think you have to view Skyrim from a different perspective. You know, it's not really this hardcore RPG. It's more like an action-based game, and if you yeah, if you can, if you're okay with that, and if you really know, or if you treat the game as an action game, then it's just so fun. I think it's just really cool to just walk around and do some quests, and clear some dungeons. I think the level design, especially in the exteriors, is just so well done. A lot better actually than in Morrowind, in my opinion. Some really good work there, and great source of inspiration as well. So yeah, definitely some great parts of this game. There are some things like I could go on and ramble about that for hours. Some things that are not really good, like the Falmer and the connection they have made between Falmer and Dwemer Ruins. I don't know why every Dwemer Ruin. But actually, if they have to be in Skyrim anyway, I don't know why Dwemer Ruins are in Skyrim. But I don't know why in every Dwemer Ruin would have Falmer at some point, even if there was other baddies in the starting areas, there were always going to be Farmer somewhere down there. That was really bad. I don't know why they did that. It was really boring, and they were just annoying as enemies. And the portrayal in general just didn't fit what we had in the lore. And actually, I like how the Farmer were just portrayed as some sort of mysterious race in Blood Moon. And I would have liked if they had kept it that way. Also, the Forsworn, for instance, very bad, and just in general, the Reach and the Rift. I didn't like those two regions. They were not. They were very poorly designed. Not so interesting. I didn't like the fall forest kind of design and either. So that was also not a big fan of it. But the rest of the game was very cool. I think I really liked it. It was really fun to play. You know, over 300 hours into it. So I should not say it's a bad game. It's actually a very good game. Just very different from Morrowind. That's why a lot of people don't like it, I guess. Yeah, I like it a lot.
Oh yeah, I've sort of entered into that same problem of comparing Skyrim and Morrowind, I can actually play about maybe 2 hours of Skyrim and have a lot of fun before I inevitably start thinking about Morrowind and then inevitably stop playing Skyrim and just start playing Morrowind. It's like the problem there is that Skyrim is, a more simple, straightforward kind of fun RPG that's just action-based, but it doesn't have quite the depth of Morrowind, and that's sort of the inevitable draws that you're drawn to the culture, to the art, and sort of the more in-depth systems that Morrowind has.
Yeah, unfortunately, they took this direction basically to complement some of their advertisements, and also that they want to just draw new players to the franchise, and that's sort of what made them go this way. But I think if you can get into this kind of gaming, like just action based and really just dump and just walking around and read all of the quests are just really straightforward as well, and really not, yeah, and the cultural aspects and stuff like that is just really not very emphasized. But I think if you can get down with that, then it's really a fun game.
Now, what do you think makes the Morrowind modding community so vibrant after more than a decade?
I think it's less the tools that we have. I mean, a lot of people would probably say it's that we have such great tools like the construction set, but a lot of games do have that, and they don't have a modding community that's as strong and vibrant as the Morrowind modding community. So I think it's more the game itself and just this atmosphere and this depth that this game does have. Like the first time you play Morrowind, you immediately drawn to it, and the way that the game speaks to you in in a certain way. This is something that other games just don't have, and you just want to come back every time. Like when I play other games, and then at some point, yeah, it's similar to what you described just a couple of minutes ago, or seconds rather, um, with the yeah, with the strong urge to go back to Morrowind and play that. And I think maybe some people do that in a way that they just go back to modding it if they've done so before. So yeah, I think that's what makes the Morrowind community so strong and vibrant. Just the game itself and this feel and this look and feel that it has. And it's less the tools that we're provided with. It's just more the game itself, I think.
Oh, definitely, definitely, and I've said this many times. Resdain is home. You're always going to go back to it eventually, somehow, some way. It's quite inevitable. If you uninstall Morrowind, you're probably going to reinstall it again at some point. And modding itself, I would actually kind of compare to an addiction. Once you start, there's no real turning back. You have to just keep doing it and, get your fix, so to speak.
Yeah, now this might scare off some people, so I'd be careful here. But yeah, I'd certainly say so. Yeah, ever since I started, I couldn't stop, and I don't think I will ever stop. But yeah, you have these breaks that you take from time to time, but every time that you play other games, you're just thinking, oh well, if this were as good as Morrowind, I'd be playing this for a lot longer. So yeah, that's certainly a thing.
Now, do you think there's anything the Morrowind modding community should be doing in order to continue to expand and grow in the coming years?
To be honest, I don't think that the modding community is doing anything wrong at the moment. Um, I think the modding community is just great. There's just so many people, not just so many people, but there's just a lot of dedicated people who are really determined to make their mods and to finish their mods, to bring new mods to people who think similarly about a great game. So I don't think we need to grow or expand. I think we just need to continue doing what we do already. I think that's the main thing here. So yeah, I don't think we are doing anything wrong here. It's just a great community. I'd like to see it continue this way and not lose any members. But I'm sure uh, there's not going to be any losses here because, yeah, as you said, you're always going to come back.
Oh yeah, the Morrowind modding community is a very mature community, I think. It's very positive driven. And I really hope that it just starts drawing in more and more new members, and that we keep our old numbers the way we have so far.
Yeah, maybe Open Morrowind will draw some more or draw the attention of some more people to this old game, this aged game. So I think a lot of people just think that Morrowind looks bad and has a bad engine or an outdated engine, and that's why they don't really play it or mod it. And I think that Open Morrowind may change something here, so that more people are going to be interested in the game. So that's something that we should support. So maybe that should answer your question. Like we should support Open Morrowind to continue to expand and grow.
Oh yes, definitely. And is there any advice you'd like to give to budding new Morrowind modders out there looking to release their first mod, or perhaps someone looking to join a major modding team like Skyrim Home of the Nords or Province Cyrodiil?
Yeah, with me being so focused on the province mods, I probably can't really give any advice to people making some sort of solo mod. But if you're looking to join up, then I've probably said the most important things already. So really, don't be afraid to join up just because you think that we're so organized and so much like a business in real life, because we're not. We're just normal people and we like to mod, and we're all sort of similar in some way. And that's where our strengths are probably placed. So yeah, just don't be afraid to join up, and it'll all be great.
Finally, is there anyone in the community you'd like to give a shout out to?
Sure, I'd like to give a shout out to all my fellow IRCers. So I think they probably know when they are being addressed in that way, because obviously if I'd like mention every one of them, I would probably forget someone, so I'd rather not do that. But everyone who's regularly chatting with me on the Internet Relay chat in the appropriate channels, yeah, greetings, and also Neiman from Tamriel Rebuilds, who I've also mentioned before, just because he's such a great modder and we get along really well. So just a little shout out in case he's listening to this. Yeah, that should be it.
Alright, that's pretty much all my questions for you. So thanks for agreeing to do this interview.
Yeah, again, thanks for having me.
It has really been a pleasure talking to you, and it's been quite fascinating hearing about all this stuff going on in the province mod development world.
Yeah, may have been going a bit loose on some of the internal things, but yeah, I think it's interesting to know, and I think it's cool to see that everyone has these kind of insights now, I guess.